Alrighty guys, this is Andrew, and happy Monday! Or whatever day you're watching this. I figured for today we will tackle a question that I get all the time, every single video, or almost every single video anyways, and that is, what is a good mouse sensitivity for Overwatch? Now, just full disclaimer guys, I want to avoid the answer, do whatever feels natural, or do whatever feels normal to you answer, because that answer feels a little bit of a cop-out answer in my opinion, and I guess secondly, if I had stuck to that particular advice, I'd still be playing on like ridiculously high mouse sensitivity with mouse acceleration on and all that jazz. So I'm just gonna assume that my answer in this video is probably going to be a little bit more controversial, right? But hey, these are my opinions, and I'm going to try my best to go into why I feel this way. And ultimately, the point of this video, for me anyways, is to get more people to go outside their comfort zone and to experiment. With all that out of the way, let's start by saying this. Overwatch is a reasonably fast-paced game, right? Maybe not the fastest in the echelon of all different shooter games there are out there, but it's fast. The other thing is that it's largely hip-fire based, so your movement sensitivity, how much you can turn around and stuff, and your aim sensitivity will be pretty much the same. I know you have Widowmaker and Ana, but in general, most of the heroes would be hip-fire based aiming style, or whatever you want to call it. So there's a bit of a balancing act you have to do. In a game like Battlefield, you have your aiming down sight sensitivity, and then like a regular walking around / hip-fire sensitivity. And the handy thing about this system, or this style of shooter, is that you could set, or at least I did, I set my hip-fire sensitivity to be a little bit faster so I can kind of, look around a little bit quicker, but I set my aiming down sight sensitivity quite a bit lower for that precision type shooting, you know what I mean? With Overwatch, it's largely the same for both. Now, you'll see a lot of people with super low sensitivities, and they usually hail from games like CSGO, where, in the game it's a bit slower pace, and the time to kill is a bit shorter, and getting that quick snap to the head is really, really crucial. So most people who play CSGO, or at least played CSGO well, need a very, very low sensitivity to be able to aim, right? Now, the argument for low sensitivity is that you'll be able to land much more precise shots because you have more room to move and fine-tune your aim with the mouse corresponding to your crosshair on the screen. Now, for those who know about sensitivity and stuff, that's probably old news, but for those who don't, this may sound a little foreign and weird and confusing, but think of it this way. I came up with a nice little analogy here. Say if you're a surgeon, you're a doctor or whatnot, you walk into the operating room and you see two tools. You got a scalpel and you got like a claymore, like a really big sword, right? And you're trying to make a small incision. Well, so theoretically, you could use the claymore to make a small cut, but the amount of movement you put into that would have to be so super light and tiny to make that small incision, so it would be pretty difficult to handle, right? It would be clunky, it would be harder to fine tune. Whereas with a small scalpel, you can really narrow down on that cut. With a super high sensitivity is the same kind of thing. If it only takes you a flick of a wrist to spin 360, 5 times, then tracking a target across your screen, zigzagging and stuff, can be difficult because your hand, it's not like a robot, right? If you're moving it microns back and forth, you're probably going to overshoot. But there is a other side of the story, if you will. Overwatch, it isn't all about aim. It's only half of the equation. Or whatever. People can get mad at me. So it's only 25%. Okay, well, you guys know what I mean. It's only part of the story. In my opinion, though, having a too low of a sensitivity can be pretty bad because it could hinder your ability to move around quickly, turn around quickly. Take a look at a hero like Genji, right? You're doing 180s and 360s. That's pretty common stuff. So if your sensitivity is too low, the argument could be made that keeping track of your targets and your positioning and view angle, that could be pretty difficult if you're having to throw your entire mouse around, right? Your whole arm around. Now, to the contrarians out there, yes, obviously, I know there's plenty of people who play on super, super low sensitivities in Overwatch. For me, personally, I'm not one of them. So what is a good sensitivity for Overwatch? For me, it's a balance between something super low, like what you would see in CSGO, that way you have, that flexibility with aiming and precision shooting, and something on the higher side so you're not totally restricted. Now for me, personally, I'm rocking a 800 DPI and 8.3 sensitivity in Overwatch. 8.3 may seem a little oddly specific, but it's just the conversion numbers ended up on that number when I typed in from the sensitivity from other games to Overwatch. Anyways, so taking a look at what the pros use, right? And all these numbers are going to be on a 1080p monitor. What the pros use, according to OverwatchKings.com, on the pro sheet, it generally ranges from anywhere between 800 DPI and 5 sensitivity to around 800 DPI and 7 sensitivity. I mean, sure, there's tons of outliers. I mean, I would say their sensitivities are pretty spread out, but I would say generally what I see, I mean, it's in that range. Now, for me personally, I think I rank a little higher on the spectrum for sensitivities, but I think it's still a good medium range, right? To me anyways, it's a balance between maintaining that aim that you would get from a low sensitivity, but not being too low when you can't turn that fast. So some of you guys out there may be wondering, well, wait, like my sensitivity is much, much higher. I can flick my wrist and I can do a 360 15 times. And to those people, I would say, you know, I would highly suggest you look into your own gameplay. Maybe you find that your, I don't know, your aim percentage is a little lacking or a little lower than what you would want. And you may want to look into reducing your sensitivity. And I know a lot of people down in the comments will say, but low sense feels so weird and unnatural. And to those people, you know what? You're completely right. Completely 100% right. Because it's not going to feel natural at all. But give it a shot. You'll notice that, you know, once you start hitting a threshold as far as lowering your sensitivity, it'll come to a point where there'll be less wrist flicking, wow, that's a tongue twister, and it'll become more of like a general swiping movement you'll do with your mouse to do those 180s, 360s, whatnot. Like to move your mouse, you'll notice you'll be moving your entire forearm a little bit more, maybe in combination with the wrist for fine tuning, but you're not going to be relying completely on your wrist for any and all types of movement. Now, you know, if you have that wrist flicking super high sensitivity, I wouldn't recommend immediately going from, you know, what you have now to something super, super low, like an 802 sensitivity or something, just because something that drastic, without getting used to like the new technique required to play on a lower sensitivity, you may find yourself getting frustrated. Your wrist will probably start hurting because it's straining to kind of move your mouse a little bit more. The game, your character is going to feel slow, you know, so I would suggest doing increments. Now, you'll find that eventually your aim is going to get easier to control once you start learning that new style of moving your mouse. Now, when you start, you may find yourself playing a little bit more cautiously, right? You know you can't turn around, or you're not used to turning around using your entire forearm or swiping, that type of movement. So you may play a little bit more cautiously, position-wise, but over time, you know, swiping left or right for that 180 with your forearm will feel more natural. And you may want to get a bigger mouse pad for this. If you have something standard size, you may find your mouse running off onto your desk. So yeah, I mean, that's just kind of like my general experience. Maybe it would be different for you guys, but I can only speak out of experience. I don't want to speak for anyone else's without really understanding it. So yeah, milestone, I'm just gonna throw a number. Maybe if you're significantly over 800 DPI and 10 sensitivity, maybe shoot for that to start with. Take it with a grain of salt. You know, this is just sort of a number that I'm throwing out there for those who want a hard milestone to kind of look out for. Anyways, I don't want to get too into the specifics on how to improve your aim, just because there's just so many drills and so many aspects to this that you guys can kind of explore. I just want to give you guys a small portion or an aspect of improving your aim, you know, sort of my insight on what a quote-unquote good sensitivity for Overwatch is. TLDR of this video is that if you're playing on a super high sense, don't be afraid of going outside your comfort zone and try some new techniques with lower sensitivities. But I would argue that like a super duper low sensitivity is probably not needed in a game like Overwatch. Kudos to you, by the way, if you play Overwatch efficiently on either spectrum of sensitivities. Anyways, guys, that's all I got for today. Hope you guys found this information useful. If you did, hit that like button. Feel free to leave a comment down below telling me or us or whatever what sensitivity you use and maybe your thoughts on all this. If you disagree with me, please let me know down in the comments as well. I'll kind of explain your logic and your thought process. And I guess until next time, guys, I'll see you around.